Hey, it's Chris. Why do I have two of the biggest names from the last 2 months in board games, hype hotness train, all aboard, in front of me? Well, that's because we're going to talk about a 5-letter word that not many people like to talk about in the hobby, right? Purge. Do you purge games? Do you get rid of games? Do you try and sell games? I am trying to get rid of games, but let's talk about this. Games that I need to, in the next month, I'm putting my feet to the fire and saying, okay, I need to decide, get off the fence, Chris. Which side are you on? You keeping it? You throwing it to the trash? Okay, I'm not going to throw it to the trash. Well, maybe I will. We'll see. But where are they going? Games that you'll recognize. Games that I got to get off the pot and let's go. Let's start with Marvel Zombies, right? Biggest IP out there. Marvel is just printing cash on almost everything IP-wise, especially on crowdfunding. This is the only Zombicide I have ever owned. Will it be the only one I ever own in the future? I won't lie. Deceased. Still have mixed feelings about that name. It was tempting. The Game of Thrones-esque winter one, that was actually, you know, you heard me say I'm a sucker for Eastern-themed games. That was really, really tempting. Didn't pull the trigger on either of them, though. I said, this one's coming. Game of Thrones coming. Winter's coming. Anyway, I get sidetracked all the time on this channel. This one's coming. I need to see if this has any appeal, any lasting, standing effect, right? I've only got like 2 plays in right now. I need to decide, looking at this, is it worth keeping? My first just mild impressions, and that's what I'm going to give you on all these games, and pros and cons, and then I'm going to come back to you maybe next month and say, what did I decide, right? That's the premise of this video, in case we made it that far and I didn't actually elicit that. Is this worth it? And I have mixed feelings on the core game after limited play count, right? Because all the cool stuff, Simon's very good at this, all the cool stuff ain't in this one. It's not. It's in the expansions. It's in the stretch goal box. You want to play with the one you want? Well, it's not in this one. Yay! Generic Avengers, right? Awesome. Fantastic. Hey, those super cool powers, you don't get to use them. So I'm looking at this going, okay, you know, with some of these games, I want the cool stuff right away, right? When I think of some of my favorite games, when I think of Spirit Island, when I think of Bullet from level 99, you know, you're doing the cool stuff right from the get-go. You don't have to build it up. You don't have to ramp it up. You know, yeah, you have some engines that can be assembled. See what I did there? Engines assembled, like, I didn't say engine builder, but, you know, Marvel Avengers assembled, that's their... Anyway, again, horrible dad puns on the channel. That's why you all love me. But I looked at this and I said, okay, when do we get to the really cool stuff? Even Marvel United, right? Like, you get some of those cool asymmetric abilities with all the little text on the cards almost right away in your hands nowadays. So I'm looking at this going, okay, is this going to win me over? Are some of those other things going to win me over, like the Marvel United stretch goal box, to make that comparison, right? That is the thing, that when people say you get Marvel United, you get the stretch goal box, period. You don't even need the other expansions. Yeah, they're going to add some other modes, just like these expansions will. But I'm not sure about the core gameplay loop of this Zombicide. The line of sight, the doors, the buildings, the spawning. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. And that, therein lies the crux of the issue, folks. If I'm not in love with that, no amount of window dressing, no amount of whipped cream and cherries and sprinkles on the top is going to make that pile of poop look any more appealing. I'm not saying that, but I'm using that very vibrant metaphor, if you will. My kids put way too many sprinkles on ice cream, by the way. Like, the ice cream changes color. Like, it just totally saturates. Anyway, I digress. So I don't know what to do with this. This was a very expensive buy. Probably the most expensive in the last 2 years for me. Anything not named Marvel United Multiverse. The other third one up there is probably the Awakening. But that, you know, those are the big 3. And this one has me the most sort of trepidatious. Like, Primal's just gonna be a whole other beast. Haha, dead pun again. Marvel United, I know I love. It's just which ones I'm gonna sell and which ones I'm gonna keep. This one, it just boggles my mind so far, and I'm hoping to get the 9-year-old's input on this one as well. And so that's probably gonna be the biggest make it or break it. If the kid loves the game, well, you know what side I fall on, right? Games that the kids will love and play, that can't really be beat, regardless of sometimes my feelings on them. They will stand the test of time just from that aspect. So that is game number 1. Game number 2, Unmatched. Tales to Amaze. Unmatched, also known as Chasing the Dragon, because that's kind of what I feel like I'm doing right now. I kind of feel like I'm chasing this unmatched dragon. And if you're not familiar with that term, go Google it, and you can know what I'm talking about. But essentially what it is, it's right, you're looking for that next high. You're looking for that next, this is what is so amazing. This was what is amazing, and I want to get back to it. And I see people going, unmatched, unmatched, unmatched. This was on everybody's top 10 list of the, games of the year. Huge portion of those at the end of the year, last year. And I said, okay, I'll trade for this. I traded for it. This is the deluxe Kickstarter edition with the little miniatures and the tokens and the little upgrades. And it's nice so far. I like, comparatively to Marvel Zombies here, I like the core gameplay loop of this. Bad guy goes, you go. Bad guy goes, you go. It's hard. You can mix and match with the bad guys. You can mix and match with the good guys. But so far, my big problem there, because you're saying, Chris, you love all that stuff, right? I compare it to something like Mythic Mischief that's sitting over here. Or I compare it to my Exceeds. And I go, and this is where the Chasing the Dragon part comes in, right? I haven't found any characters that I'm really like, wow, I really like what this character is bringing to this mechanism. I haven't. Now, again, I haven't played them all. We've got Legends Volume 2. I've got Hell's Kitchen. And I've got this. So, that's a fair number of characters, right? So 4 in this, 3 in Hell's Kitchen. What is it, like 4 or 5 in Legends 2? I can't remember. But you're talking a minimum of 10 characters there. And I haven't played them all. Be completely transparent here. But I've played a good number of them now. I'd say 4 or 5. And I haven't found the one that I go, yeah, right? And I found myself, trying to, as they say with Marvel Champions, right? They don't say, Marvel Champions, you need this character pack, this character pack, this character pack. What they say with Marvel Champions is go buy the ones that you like. Go buy the ones that you want to play as. Because if you want to play as them, probably the mechanics are going to, sort of synergistically click with you. And I find myself online, Board Game Oracle, Atomic Empire, Game Nerds, Amazon, looking at a couple of these other expansions. Genie and Houdini, for example, is the one that has really caught my eye. The Samurai one that's coming out sometime Q1-ish this year. And those are the ones that I'm really looking at and going, that's kind of what I like. But what scares me, folks, is this whole base system, right? Like, I have to buy a whole nother expansion to be able to like the core gameplay that this is giving me in the first place. A little bit, if that makes sense, combining those two. Like, I know I said I like the core gameplay, but if I don't have a character that fits my asymmetric desires, it's like with Mythic Mischief, right? I have 4 factions in that expansion box, and 2 of them I really enjoy how they manipulate that gameplay loop. They click with me. They work with me. My mind works well around them. I enjoy playing as those. With Bullet, I enjoy the manipulation of several of the characters, how they manipulate the bullets and the tokens differently than the other ones. I have not found yet a character that I go, yes, move, play an action card is really enjoyable. I like the mechanistic approach. I do not like the individual minutia approach so far of the characters, if that's a better way of explaining it. And what scares me is I don't want to buy a whole nother expansion and end up with, like, again, like 12, 14 characters, and I'm using 1 or 2. That, to me, is not really enjoyable, right? Because the reason you do this, the reason I have all of Spirit Island, I like playing with many of them. I like the variety, the flavor, the 57 different flavors of ice cream, if you will, when you go into the shop, right? If you only want one flavor, you go to the local you know, whatever store, and you get their generic vanilla or chocolate. You go to the shop with 57 flavors because they've got a couple that you can't get anywhere else that are absolutely what you're looking for, different than what other things are offering. And I haven't found that yet with this. Yeah, I haven't. I like the cooperative system. I like the cooperative system better than the competitive system. I do. I mean, the competitive system, okay. It's okay-ish. My kid likes it, though. Again, I can go back to #1 with Marvel Zombies. My kid likes it, so it's not going to go anywhere right now. But, you know, it's also why I got rid of Star Wars Epic Duels. Oh, he got rid of Star Wars Epic Duels? Oh, yeah, I got rid of it. Because the core gameplay loop was boring with those characters. There wasn't enough mitigation. And they've increased this. They've upgraded it. They've made it better. They've added some flavor. They've added a little bit of to it. And so I know why people like it. But knowing why people like it and truly enjoying it myself, those are two different things, folks. I know I should like it up here. I have not yet fully enjoyed it as much as I want to down here. You know you have games like that in your collection, right? Where you go, up here, this should be clicking all of this box and this box and this box and this box, and you get to play it, and it's just like the sum of the parts is not equal or greater to what it should be in the first place. And that's why I'm struggling with that one as a whole. Speaking of that, you know, let's just go to Senjutsu right here. Senjutsu was not on the menu today, actually. I have 3 other games sitting next to me that I was going to do instead of Senjutsu. But you know what? I can't ignore it because it ties in very, very nicely, right? And, oh, the beautiful Kickstarter sleeve, folks. Everybody's favorite. Anyway, this is in the line of the other 2-player duelers. I mean, kind of like Unmatched. Unmatched is, you know, especially that cooperative version is a whole nother beast. But this is miniatures on a grid with battling. And I love these dueling asymmetric games. Love. I'm going to be putting out a video in the next month or two of ranking and quantifying my love for these types of games, right? But I got this on crowdfunding. I didn't get the all-in because I was terrified. I was terrified that when I looked at this, I said, you know, at least with Unmatched, okay, I know what that is. At least with Marvel Zombies, I understand what the loop is. Senjutsu, it's a little bit more obtuse. The rulebook isn't as good as the other 2 games that we just talked about. The iconography and the word usage, you know, just impressions-wise so far, it really gives off like, okay, it's one of those games where, you know, like the Magic the Gathering clones where they're like, well, we don't want to copy Magic the Gathering, so we're going to call tapping a card triangulating it to the side, right? You know, or whatever fancy, different being the key there, term that they use. And you're like, why? Oh, your discard pile is your reusable, destructive transmission deck pile. Whatever it may be, right? But you're like, why are you just naming a discard pile? Who cares, right? I don't care if it's like every other term. I mean, and so that's kind of what I'm struggling with, having read the rulebook a couple times and going, okay. And I'm a little bit trepidatious because I haven't gotten into the table yet. And so will it be easier in the opposite sense that we were just talking about Tales to a Maze? I'm waiting for the sum of the parts to be greater. I'm worried Senjutsu, you know, it's got all these parts, but what's it going to amount to? And thankfully, maybe, you know, maybe it's going to blow me out of the water. Because I'm looking for something else, right? I like the idea of it, but Ivion is sort of a mixed bag with me too. The 3D element of it, right? Like Exceed, Battlecon, you are head to head. There is no, you know, sidestepping. You're either hitting or you're just not close enough, or you're too far away. But you're not like, you're like this, you're not like, woo, like that. And that's what scares me about this too. And there's a lot more terminology with this. So you're going to get the complexity that sometimes people may want. It's not deep enough. But is it going to be too complex? Because that leads me very much into the next game, and we'll talk about here, of complexity for the sake of complexity. Again, not saying complexity is a bad thing. but the complexity for you in that same aspect. So, I mean, the miniatures are okay. Did I buy the wrong extra add-on expansion? I think I got like one of the mini expansions that went along with it because they were incredibly high priced. Not a great value, but that's, I mean, true of crowdfunding. That's true of expansions in general, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying anything that I wouldn't say about any other games as well with that. So that being said, I alluded to it, so now we have to go to it. I've had this for a long time. And again, another mechanism I love. I love deck building. I really love deck building. And I got this. I do not think this is a well-written rulebook. There is an excellent deck building game, unlike any other, hidden under the layers here. My first 2 times playing it, I just couldn't get through it. Reading the rule book, it's not a rule book that is intuitive. It's not a rule book that is a rule book that allows you to straight up learn it. And yes, I know somebody is going to raise their hand like the obnoxious, you know, sort of, well, Chris, you're wrong. I was able to do it. That was my game of the year. Well, I mean, yes, you can inevitably slog through it, folks. But let's take this for example. Like, I can't teach this to somebody else after reading the rulebook. I could not explain this to a non-gamer in any way, shape, or form whatsoever after reading the rulebook twice through. I'm struggling to play it and understand the mechanisms myself without watching a video. And again, I don't care if you like watching videos. I have nothing against watching videos. You should never have to watch a video in order to learn how to play a game correctly. I stand by that. That is a hill I will die on. People do great jobs with those videos. They are an awesome resource, but you should never put out a game manual that anybody in our hobby, speaking, can take that without talking to, asking any questions, and learn how to play the game thoroughly. Maybe you're not going to get to all the edge cases, but I'm not talking about edge cases here. And a lot of people like this for solo because it's longer. It's more complex. There's more strategy. It's a better game because it's more complex. I mean, there's always those people. And I don't know, because the curve to get into it is disproportionately high. I guess that's maybe a better way of putting it, right? Not horrible, but it's disproportionate to its weight, its size, its overall otherwise appearance. Blessing, curse, depending on how you feel about that. And I feel like I haven't necessarily been able to give it as fair a shake. If I could really get down the core flow and the core mechanism, I could really say, okay, well, I like this or I do not like this for X, Y, and Z. It gives me this feeling of X, Y, and Z. But when I'm just, you know, getting a headache from trying to figure it out, I mean, I want to go back to it. But I also, as someone who talks about this on a channel regularly, right? I have so much flowing in, flowing out, being covered, being able to be covered easier that, you know, with a barrier to entry like this, it's harder for me to give it a fair shake. It just is, right? I have too many other things that are easier to learn, that I know I will enjoy, and I don't do this channel. I don't talk about these games in general to, you know, put myself through the ringer to not enjoy something. You know, a lot of people get criticized. Oh, that channel only talks about positive stuff. Well, you know what? It's a hell of a lot easier to talk about things you love than things that sort of you don't like whatsoever, or things that you're kind of like, oh, that was okay-ish. I mean, okay-ish is where a lot of crowdfunding quotes come out nowadays, right? Where you go and you can't tell how much the person actually loved it. This was a solid game. What the freaking does that mean, right? You've seen those crowdfunding quotes. I try not to put those crowdfunding quotes out anymore because, you know, I want you to know how I feel about a game. Like, if I really love that game, you're going to hear me shout it. If I'm okay with it, if I have some concerns, if I have some criticisms, if I have some I don't really knows, that's okay too. And that's okay. That's okay. Because you know what? I don't know, or this is a concern for me, is going to be something that you go, ah, Chris, that's not a big deal for me. Whatever. I'm awesome with this. Hey, Chris, I'm completely okay with learning this super hard to learn game because I think it's worth it. Awesome. Awesome. I'm not going to stop you. Again, I want to love all of these games. I don't acquire games like this and go, you know what? I think I'm going to hate on this game because it's a big name, and because it doesn't have enough hate, and because that's going to get me clicks. I could care less about that. I play these games to enjoy them. As I've said previously, I'm not super competitive. I lose the vast majority of games I play against other people. Like, I'm not that person. That's even when I'm teaching all the games. So don't get in the comment section and say, well, Chris is just hating on it because you can't play it, because you can't understand it. Like, I want to do that with every single game. At the same time, my patience has a limit in every aspect too. And so if you're going to make it that much more difficult from all avenues, right? Like, there's only so much I'm going to put up with too. Because I am not professional gamer, folks. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I work full time. Like, I got other stuff. I got other priorities. That's not going to be my main focus, is to learn your game if it's too hard to learn. And I want to. So again, this month, feet to the fire with Imperium Legends. Now, I got the Legends version. These, again, I chose this for a reason. I chose this because the civilizations in this one appeal to me more than the other version. So there you go. And in case you didn't know, Horizons is coming out soon, and we'll figure out Horizons, and that's like another whole thing. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, next one up. This was supposed to be number 5, but we threw Shinjitsu in there, so we might do 6 if time permitting. Power Plants. KTBG's previous crowdfunding game. I watched the Rado video of this during the end of the campaign, and they put out a quality product. It's an appealing game, period. It's got sort of the multi-power sort of thing going on. You got different plants that you can customize and make more modularity, system swapping, whatever you want to call it, right? Where, you know, you choose a certain number, you put them out there, and then you area control. But it just hasn't gotten to the table. The appeal. Up here, aesthetically speaking, this is a very beautiful game. I'm just not sure if it's almost too much. That's what I just ran into with Maple Valley. I've got Maple Valley sitting right here behind Beast. Right there, as you can see it. Maybe, maybe not. And I don't know what I'm going to do with that one yet. I'm leaning towards, frankly speaking, purging it. Maybe I should have done that one for this video. But I'm looking at Power Plants right now and going, kind of the same thing, right? It's this tweener game, 1 to 5. I don't know, 30 minutes. That, you know, I'd say it's longer than that. I'm not really sure I want to play it solo. I'm not sure how well it's going to scale. So this is one I'm probably going to have to bust out and have my wife test out with me and see how she feels about it. I like the dynamic of having a power if I do this, or the power if I choose to do this. I like that yin and yang, and that was the main mechanism in this game that I looked at and I said, great. And I was a crowdfunding backer, and I got the extra factions, and I like that. And again, value-wise, KTBG, great, fantastic. You know, got this on crowdfunding, got Maple Valley. Passed on Creature Comforts, just not me. But is it going to hold up in that sense? Because if you're like me, or frankly speaking, I've really tried to get away from this. So if you're more susceptible to this, in terms of, this is a pretty game, Chris. Ooh, that aesthetic is so nice, Chris. I'm just gonna buy it because it's such a nice looking game, and you know what? We'll see if I like it. No. New. That's a WWE Gable reference right there, in case you're wondering. So that's what I have to figure out. And so this is actually, I think, going to shoot up the radar for me and my wife to play as a whole, to see if it fits from that aspect of things. Because this one actually should be a lot easier to get to the table than the others on this list, just from a actually get it to the table. Zombicide has the setup and teardown. Unmatched, I'm still trying to figure out which one I want to use next. Well, we just talked about Imperium and Senjutsu of being a little bit, learning curve a little bit higher, so Power Plants is easily going to be the easiest one there. I know I was going to do Maple Valley, but let's stick to the regularly scheduled plan here, and maybe some musings of Maple Valley at the end if I'm lucky or not. Fall of the Mountain King. I absolutely loved my demo of this prior to the crowdfunding campaign. Burnt Island, you know, the presentation of this, the round situational, sacrifice your creatures at the end of the round in order to score points, this overlapping tableau system that I have seen recently in one of the other games, Chicken Army Regroup. They did a game like that where you're just little tableau building. with cards and just overlaying them and counting up the symbols. And that's essentially what the first part of this game is in order to mechanize all of your other options going forward. I know that's not really what, you know, how you would say that, but this is my channel and I say what I want. So this was the crowdfunding edition. And again, they have a big overlap with like KTBG in terms of like the little green text, as you can see right here on the camera, of all of the exclusive stuff, the extras that you got, just like we got with Power Plants. And I haven't played this in like over a year. My recollection is bringing back the feelings of staying too long, overstaying its welcome previously. And that's what I don't need in a game like this. I do not have a large space, metaphorically speaking, for games that take more than 2 hours. Especially if I have to relearn them every single time. I've got some. No lie. Right, no lie. Of course you do. I don't have the bandwidth, the opportunity to play many of those. I don't. Like, you know, 30 to 75 minutes is ideal. Hour and a half, hour 40, sure, right? But more than, you know, 100 minutes, that's pushing the limits of what I can do most of the time. And not to say I can't have those. I'm not going to make any judgments about anyone else's. But if I only have limited, I can't have a ton of those games. Because as I've said repeatedly, I am not a collector. Okay, I can say that not being able to hold a straight face. But my purpose of having this is not to collect. My purpose is to play and to be able to play. And so if I have too many of those, inevitably some of them aren't going to get played. And then inevitably it's only going to be the ones that I love. Not the games that are good, not the games that are great, not the games that are fantastic. This is everyone's top, you know, 50 of all time. The games that are fantastic for me. That's going to be a smaller and smaller edging out crowd. Which is why some of these games like Maple Valley at the higher player counts may get edged out. Because it kind of, you know, falls in that category. And this one does too. Again, production, top notch. Burnt Island coming to us later this year with another crowdfunding game like How to Save the World or something. Sort of the Bruce Willis, you know, going up to the asteroid, trying to blow it up movie style of theme. I don't know, whatever it is. But we're going to see that from them later this year. But this one, again, I was really impressed with the demo, but I'm really concerned that it's going to just overstay its welcome and just be a little bit too much of too much. So we'll see. And if it is, well, purge, right? That's the whole purpose of this video. If I am not absolutely behind it, it's gone. Now, not right away, obviously. That's probably the biggest part of the hobby right now. That's the biggest pain in the butt, getting rid of stuff. It's just hard. I'm willing to take losses. I don't care. I just want to get rid of stuff sometimes. And that's what I'm trying to do right now, actually. It's not working out so great, but it's going okay. But that's it. Those are my 5/6/6.5 back there that are on my hot list for this month on the Purge list. They are on the edge of the diving board. I am making them walk the plank, and unless they can appeal to me and convince me otherwise, they're going overboard. There you go. That's the Purge list. Let's check back in next month and see where things are at, because maybe what I'll do then is I'll give you a quick synopsis of these 5 and give you another 5 that are on the edge. Okay, that's all I got. Let me know. You like this? Think this is interesting? What Liege is actually talking about? What he's getting to the table? What he is trying to either get rid of or solidify? What's there for you? Stay classy. Peace out. Over 9,000! We're still not there. I get to say it. It's gonna get really annoying. I know. One of these times I'll throw the Dragon Ball Z, you know, picture GIF in. That's all I got. Stay classy. Peace out. Head nod up.